Welcome to our deep dive. We're tackling conflict resolution, something I think we all need a little help with sometimes. Over the next 3 dives, we're going to check out some really useful frameworks to help you handle disagreements better.
Yeah, absolutely.
So think work, home, you name it.
For sure.
Today we're diving into the AEIOU model.
Okay.
We're going to be using this super interesting blog post as our guide.
Sounds good.
It really breaks it all down.
All right.
Have you heard of this AEIOU model before?
I have. It's a popular one. I've seen it used in so many different places. Businesses, schools, even personal relationships.
Oh, wow. So it's pretty versatile.
Yeah, it really is. And one of the things that makes it so effective is that it's grounded in real theory, like communication and conflict resolution theories.
Okay, so it's not just like a catchy acronym.
No, not at all. There's real substance behind it.
So what are we talking about here?
Well, AEIOU stands for Acknowledge, Express, Identify, Outline, Understand.
Okay, 5 steps.
5 steps to a more peaceful life.
I like it. So is the main idea like getting everyone on the same page?
Yeah, it's about creating a space where everyone feels heard and understood, and they can work together to find a solution that works for everyone.
It's not about like winning or losing an argument.
Exactly. It's about collaborative problem solving.
Okay, I'm starting to see the difference. So let's take it step by step. First up, acknowledge. What's that all about?
Acknowledging is more than just saying, yep, there's a problem. It's about really listening, trying to see things from the other person's point of view.
You're not blaming them.
Right. It's about framing the issue in a neutral way. Like the blog post gives an example. Imagine there's tension about how resources are being allocated for a project.
Happens all the time.
Instead of saying, you're not being fair with the resources, you could say something like, it seems like there's some disagreement about the best way to allocate resources for this project.
Okay, so it's more about starting a conversation, not pointing fingers.
Yeah, exactly. It's about creating a safe space for open dialogue.
That makes sense. Okay, next up is express. Seems pretty straightforward, right? Just say what you're feeling.
Well, it is about expressing your feelings honestly, but there's a little more nuance to it. The key is to use I statements.
Ah, okay, I've heard of those.
Yeah, so instead of saying, you always make me miss deadlines because you're never clear about them, which kind of puts the blame on the other person.
Right.
You would say something like, I feel frustrated when deadlines are unclear because I want to make sure I can deliver my work on time.
So it's about owning your feelings, not blaming others. Why is that so important?
You statements often make people defensive. They feel attacked, and then they're less likely to really listen to what you're saying. But when you use I statements, you're focusing on your own experience.
Okay, that makes sense.
It's less accusatory and more about sharing your perspective.
The blog post actually gave an example of that, right? It was, I feel frustrated because I think our communication about deadlines could be clearer.
Yeah, that's a great example.
Way better than just yelling, you never tell me when things are due. All right, so we've acknowledged the conflict, expressed our feelings. What comes next?
Next is identify.
Identify. Identify what exactly?
This is where you really focus on what you want the outcome to be, and you try to find some common ground.
Like, what are your goals? What are their goals? And where do they, overlap?
Exactly. The blog had a good example, something about meeting deadlines and making sure everyone's workload is manageable. You could say something like, my goal is to make sure we meet the project deadline, but I also want to make sure everyone has a reasonable workload. What are your priorities?
Right, so even though you might disagree on how to get there, you're both on the same page about wanting the project to be successful.
Yeah, and once you understand each other's desired outcomes, it's easier to find solutions that work for everyone.
Okay, that leads us to the next step, outline.
This is where the brainstorming begins. You've identified those shared goals. Now it's time to come up with potential solutions.
The blog post talked about reprioritizing tasks or bringing in extra help to meet that deadline. It's all about teamwork.
Exactly. It's about working together to find the best solution, not just one person dictating what to do.
Okay, I like that. And the final step is understand.
This is where you go from brainstorming to an actual agreement.
Making sure everyone's on board.
Right. Everyone needs to understand the solution, feel good about it, and be committed to making it work.
It's more than just a compromise, then.
Definitely. It's about finding a genuine consensus. The blog also suggested writing down the agreement so everyone's clear. Something simple like, we've agreed to reassign some tasks and have weekly check-ins to make sure everyone's on track.
Oh, that's a smart idea. Keeps everyone accountable. Well, I've got to say, this AEIOU framework, it's pretty impressive. Seems like it could apply to so many situations.
It really can. And it's not the only effective method out there. There are other approaches to conflict resolution too, each with its own unique perspective.
Oh, really? Like,
Well, there's one called Navigating Beliefs. That's pretty interesting.
never heard that one. What's that all about?
It's about looking deeper into the values and beliefs that are often at the root of conflicts.
So it's like, why do we even disagree in the first place?
Exactly. It requires a bit more introspection, understanding your own values and how they might be different from someone else's.
Sounds fascinating. We should definitely dive into that.
We definitely should.
Holy cow, we almost forgot to ask subscribe now.
Oh, okay.
It's like, are they just so busy
Well, forget.
with the farm life that they forgot to ask us to subscribe?
They got distracted by a runaway calf or something.
I know.
In our next dive, we'll explore navigating beliefs in detail.
Awesome. I can't wait. So listeners, while you're waiting for that next deep dive, think about a conflict you're dealing with right now.
Good idea.
How could you use these AEIOU steps?
It's a great way to practice.
Until next time, happy resolving.
See you then.